What's going on, guys? It's the Skylander dude, and I'll be doing my best to predict the lineup for the Youtooz X Skylanders figures coming in 2025. If you haven't heard the news, well, then surprise. But yeah, this is happening. Youtooz has confirmed numerous times that Skylanders figures are on the horizon for early next year. Now that's pretty much all they said. We don't know what figures are coming or even how many. So today, I'm going to try to predict that. I also genuinely think this is one of the best outcomes for the current Skylanders community. There's a lot of controversy surrounding the thought of a brand new Skylanders game, so having a third party make these officially licensed figures doesn't take away anything from the games and still provides some content to us fans. With that being said, I seriously doubt these figures have any connection to a future Skylanders console release. I feel confident in saying that the figures we get will only be of existing characters and not reimagined or new designs for a new potential installment. But if you are unfamiliar with Youtooz, they typically make pop culture figures much like Funko Pops. Most figures share the same stylized look with a larger head and these curved eyes. So I threw together some quick mock-ups of my predictions just to get a visual sense of what these figures could look like. With that being said, go easy on me because some of these designs are pretty cursed. But I've listed these in the order of most to least likely, so let's start with Spyro. Of course, you gotta have the main man Spyro. He has to get a Youtooz figure. Youtooz has also already made Spyro figures in the past based off the Reignited Trilogy games. Something I've noticed with Youtooz is that they usually do a pretty good job with the poses of their figures, but just for this mock-up here, I kinda went with the iconic OG stance of Spyro just to get an idea. I am pretty confident that Skylander Spyro will get a figure here, and that's why I put him at number 1 most likely. I'm also assuming they won't include any elemental bases like real Skylanders, and I'd honestly prefer if they didn't. I think it'll be cool to see these characters off bases for once. Now these next two on my list kind of go hand in hand, as I think they have an equal likeliness of being turned into Youtooz. And what's the original SSA Spyro without his starter pack buddies? So first up is Trigger Happy. Though they could do something pretty cool with his upgraded blasters, I think for the figure they'd stay pretty close to home with his base design. And of course, the other is Gil Grunt. I thought it'd be kinda cool to see him in a dynamic pose with shooting water, but again, still staying close to that OG design. Trigger Happy and Gil Grunt are some of the most well-known Skylanders, so I think they're right next to Spyro for being most likely. They might be a little surprised by who I think is next, but I'd say it's Chaos. Even though he's not a Skylander, he's still super iconic, he's in every game, super memorable, and I think they have a lot of options when choosing a figure design. The pose I went with for this mock-up is pretty basic, but he utilizes so many attacks throughout the series that they have a lot of options for posing. His body also just kind of translates well into the Youtooz style. The next possible choice I threw up in here is T-Rex. He's another super iconic character, and again, I think they could do some really cool work with his pose. Someone like T-Rex would be cool to see here because even though he was popular, we really only got one figure excluding variants or his mini. There wasn't a Series 2 T-Rex or anything crazy like that, so I think a lot of people would love to see another figure of this guy. I think posing him up in his arm charge attack would be super cool, and they can even add some translucent green plastic bits around his arm for some more detail. And when I first posted about the news of this collab, a lot of people commented suggesting Chill Bill. At first, I truly didn't think he'd be this high on my list, but after looking through some other Youtooz figures, they often do capitalize off of memes, so I think this is a possibility. Though Chill Bill is kind of more popular for his theme song, the character himself is still become more well known. I'm sure they could pull off a much better pose than this. Maybe he's like actually freezing something, that would be cool, but who knows. These next two I also think would have a similar probability of becoming figures. First is Eruptor. Though we do already have a lava barfing Eruptor for his Series 3 figure, it's such an iconic move that I think Youtooz could still do something similar. Eruptor is certainly one of the most well-known and loved characters, but I don't think he'd be as high as the others. I'd actually rank him at the same spot as Stealth Elf. They both started off in the first game and have numerous other appearances throughout other releases. They could do a lot of fun things with the Stealth Elf figure, but I just went with her Series 2 art for this mock-up. Next up, I'm bringing in another NPC, and that's Flynn. Flynn has always been one of the most loved NPCs, and although he was featured across all 6 console games, there's very little physical merch of this guy. I mean, the only official figure we have is from a Mega Block set. Skylanders never made Flynn playable in the game, so he never got a figure. This would be a great chance to make a physical figure of this guy, though I understand it is not super likely. I've got another two next up that have the same probability, just a little less than Flynn. First is my personal favorite Skylander, Pop Fizz. Even though I'd love to see a Pop Fizz figure, I tried to stay unbiased and rank his probability accurately. I think seeing him in his normal or beast mode would be awesome, but I kinda drew inspiration from his first design in Giants for this mock-up here. The other character that I think shares Pop Fizz's probability is Jetvac. Jetvac was also introduced in Giants, and he came in the starter pack, so he was kind of forced to become a favorite. He's still got a cool character, and maybe they could add some air action coming out of his vacuum for the Youtooz. Towards the end of the list here, I have Eon. We've seen many forms of Eon throughout the games, from a full body to a floating head, but much like Flynn, he has no physical figure. He wasn't even made for Mega Bloks. Though they could just make his floating head, I think if they were to choose Eon, they would give us his full body form. I do think he adapts very well to the Youtooz style, though he lacks some popularity and I don't think it's super likely. The last character I had in mind, and the least likely of the bunch, is a Chompy. Chompies are probably the most iconic enemy right behind Chaos, but they don't really scream Skylanders in my opinion. Now, not all Youtooz have the curved eyes, and because Chompies already have weird eyes, I think they'd keep their original design. One singular Chompy figure would be neat, but I think it would be cooler if one figure had like 3 Chompies piled onto each other. When there's one Chompy, there's usually multiple, so I feel like this is just more accurate. A Chompy pod could also make sense, but that'd just be too much for one figure. However, they could take those Chompies and change the color to better represent a red or Enfuego Chompy or a Frigid Chompy. Don't get me wrong here, getting officially licensed Skylanders merchandise for the first time in years is going to be super awesome and exciting no matter who they pick to turn into Youtooz. I feel pretty confident about my likelihood list here, and it'll be interesting to come back and see if I got some right. But what do you think? Do you agree with my predictions or think I missed out on some characters? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Peace.